Hey guys, Teresa Barber here with Sippie Couture. Welcome to my channel. Thanks so much for taking a minute to stop and watch. I hope this video helps you guys. I really enjoy doing these, so please subscribe, follow me on the different social medias. It really does a lot to help me keep making these for you. So today I'm going to show you how I made my wristband tumbler. And I didn't plan on making an intro for this, so I'm sorry I'm going to repeat some of the stuff later in the video. This was kind of a last minute thing. But this is some wristbands that I have. All four of my boys, and I say this later on, play baseball. And we spend every single weekend at the baseball park. And I always have these wristbands laying around. And I'm not a sentimental type person, but I felt like I wanted to do something fun with these. Since they're all on different teams, it's so hard to find a design that really supports all of them. And when I thought about this, I was like, oh, it's perfect. I don't have to pick a color or a team or a number. I'm not stuck with trying to make a bunch of colors work. This kind of says what I do all the time. And it works perfect. Now, one of the reasons why I did want to do an intro for this one is that this can easily be turned into a girl design. When I was doing this, I had the thought of if I had some glitter and I dropped some glitter, I used Patina paste to do the rust effect, to give it like that dirty baseball look. But to do this design in glitter, Egret from Mr. Nola's Glitter is this really pretty, bright, white flashes of opal glitter. And it plays off of every color everywhere, but it plays off the colors in this tumbler really great. And it has a little bits that will help fill in some of these cracks between the wristband where it will show the white paint. And it wouldn't take away from the design. It would be so pretty. And that would be easy enough to put, you know, a cheer mom or a dance or volleyball. And I don't know, I have all boys. So whatever other sports you girls do, and activities that hand out wristbands and stuff to get in to get those gate fees, it would be really cute. So, and I didn't get a chance to really explain that until way later in the video. That's why I wanted to make this tutorial. But this is super easy. Like I said, a design that can rep all of your ballers, all of your kids, and just change away, you know, the sunglasses or the wording on it. So that's it, guys. Like I said, I hope you like this. Again, please subscribe. I like making these, and it'd be cool if I could keep doing that for you guys. So, all right, hope you enjoy this. All right, plain white tumbler. I did white spray paint just to give these a good backdrop. I like when all of my colors really stand out, and these bracelets will definitely pop more on a white base. So got a little white spray paint, using a bit of epoxy to help stick these suckers down. Grab my heat gun, help spread this out. I'm using Speed Dry Epoxy. I want this to be a quick process so I can get these stuck on here and really be able to make sure they're in place. I've tried gluing these bracelets down with everything. I've tried Mod Podge, I've tried Tack It, spray adhesive. I tried regular epoxy, you know, like not a fast setting one, and it stuck, but I had to keep going back to make sure they were, you know, going to be laying the way I wanted it. So now we're going to go with Speed Dry, and that was the trick when I did the last one like this, so we're doing it again. All right, I don't have any bubbles to worry about with that, so I'm going to turn this off and start laying them down. I put a good bit of epoxy on here, which is fine with me, because I want to be able to push them down to whatever kind of comes up out of the sides. I can kind of use that to help lay it on top. So we're gonna put one down and move on. I don't know why that one has an X on it. Let's go orange. I don't want them to all be the exact same, so I'm gonna flip them in different ways. Go green. My boys play baseball. We play travel ball. I have 4 boys. 3 of them play travel ball. So we play every single weekend. So this is an expensive tumbler. There's a lot that is put into this tumbler besides just making it, you know, like the hours, the money, everything. Let's see, do I have a regular pink one that says something else? Let's go with this. These bracelets have been through some stuff. They have seen some games. I'm not worried about what's overlapping, because I'm gonna trim some of that off. I have a red bracelet in this mix, and I don't like the color red, so I'm leaving that one out. Stick this down real good. Get my 2D one from the other weekend. The good thing about this is that I'm gonna go through and I will be, what color didn't I use for a while? Let's go green. I will go through and add a little, some paste, like the textured paste that you use for doing, why can't I think today? The textured paste that you use for doing, come on man, work with me brain. Patinas, there we go, good Lord. Patinas, we're gonna use some patina paste, and that's gonna give us some really, really good depth when it comes to wanting, do I have one here? When it comes to wanting it to look like some dirt, there's a red rust that is perfect. That is so perfect for the baseball look. And then when you give it, go the other way. There we go. It's so good for giving it that baseball look. And then when you add a little brown onto that, it's so cool. It's so cool looking. I hope I have enough of these. Like I should. God, I don't want to have to use red. I won't have to. Ooh, I got scared for a minute there. Why do I'm so weird with that color? I just don't like it. What other colors do I have? Oh, is the pink one's gonna be close. Oh, a purple. All right, let's go. Purple, you trip. And we'll finish it off with UACS. All right, get these and see what's up with my spacing, because I did one before and it fit perfect. And like I said, I can fill this in. Make sure they're spaced out. Give yourself just a little bit of space between it and it will close in that gap. Yeah, they're too tight right there. Okay. I'll have to count. I believe it was 14 last time I did one of these, but I also think my tumbler that I used was slightly different. I think it was slightly tapered on the bottom. I have such a great idea for this one. I hope it comes out the way that I have it set in my brain. All right, we're gonna keep laying these down. See which ones have a little more room to spread. Epoxy is definitely the best thing to lay these down with. Like after trying so hard with a different tumbler that I did, oh, epoxy was definitely the trick. Okay, what can I use? Where's my parchment paper? Let me get a new piece because I don't want any glitter on this one. Say that, and then I lay a big old piece of glitter on it. Lay it down. Really, really smash it on there. I'm so excited about this one, guys. He's such a weirdo. I mean, it's cool when it represents your life. That's what I love about these. It's so much more. Like, this is my favorite thing, is watching my boys do something they love and do it good. I mean, I love watching them, even if they're having a bad day out there, but oh, I love it so much more when they don't suck. I know that sounds horrible, but that's the type of mom I am, and I cannot, can't not be real. All right, lay this down a bit. This will need epoxy, guys. This will need a good bit of epoxy. So let this go. We're gonna come back in a little bit as this starts to really set and make sure all of my areas are pushed down a bit more. We're gonna worry about trimming all this stuff off later, so we're not gonna worry about that right now. We're gonna use our cup edging tool from Wicked Shimmer. Obsessed with that thing. And we will use that, and it will give us the best lines possible. It's amazing. So let this go for a bit and come back to it in a little bit. I'll show y'all what I do. Okay, so if you used a lot of epoxy, kind of like I did, it's going to want to push up on some of these sections, and it will raise it. And it's going to make it a little tougher for you to work with in a little while. So what we're going to do, it's been spinning for a little bit. I have my heat gun. I'm just kind of loosening it up a little, and then I'll press it down again. So good and bad thing with using a lot of epoxy. The bad thing is, like I said, it gets up under these little pieces and it'll want to push it up. And it will give it a bit more of a problem to work with, you know, a little later on. The good thing about it is that when you come back down in that little time later to smash it down, it will kind of pop up from these seams, and you can use it almost like glue to help get the top of those seams to stick down. So if you can see, I'm not covering up too much. I'm like pushing it out of these little seams and then kind of running it along top. Push it down. All right, and then let it spin for a bit longer, let it really set in place, and then we'll put a layer of epoxy on it before we even try to trim any of this down. Close up that gap. Okay, I had a few parts I could tell didn't like what I tried to do. So we will use my little funky scraper tool that my husband got me from somewhere. And really take this and press it all down. Doing this is also going to squish out just a bit of epoxy, but like I said before, it will kind of transfer onto some of the top parts and help it to glue back down. Kind of want these. I want the texture of those being ripped up. So they'll be on there, but I'll make sure they're all kind of laid in place. Keep working that out. Definitely trying to get out some of the areas I can tell has bubbles under these bracelets, because I don't want them to have a bubble under it. Like, I want them to lay flat. I'm okay with the pieces that are like this that kind of stick up, but I definitely want everything to be flat onto there. I'm excited. I hope this one's done for this weekend. What's today? Thursday? Eee, tight. I don't know if it will be. All right, I'm going to keep curving these around just so that it's a little easier to work with when it's time to trim them off. Need some epoxy to help lay that part down. Where can I grab some from? There we go. Wait for it to come around so I'm not chasing it. All right. Scraper worked. definitely helped for it to do what I wanted it to, which was to really get it to lay flat in some spots. All right, let this go, and then now we will come back to it in a little bit. We're gonna go in with some distressing and cleaning up this bottom, and I'll show you how we do that. First, I'm just gonna go through and cut off some of the pieces that are sticking out to make it a little easier when I use my cup edging tool. Just get all this little extra off. And the main reason for that is that when we're doing this cup edging tool, we want to be able to slide our tumbler around the bottom of the tool, and if anything is sticking up or like any bumps on the bottom, it's going to give us an uneven line. So we've trimmed some of that down just enough where this paper will set flat. We're going to make our life a little easier at the top and trim that off also. It looks like a hot mess right now, but I promise it's going to be so awesome. All right, so I have this little cup edging tool from Wicked Shimmer, and I have it down to the lowest setting. They give you these really awesome spacers with it and more blades, and you can change the height of where your line will cut depending on how many washers you have under it. I don't have any under it. I have the secondary black piece under it because I like my edge to be really low to the bottom. So I have just the bottom black brace. Was tough to say. I have a paring knife, and what I do is I wedge my paring knife in between the blade and the lower black piece. Goodness, my words. What that does is it gives the blade a little more stability. That way, whenever you're applying pressure and you're rotating the cup, it won't kind of like wobble up and down on you, I guess to say. So now from here, and hopefully I can get this right. It's easy to see. Oh, it's gonna tip over. Sorry guys. So what we're doing is, you see how I have it right up against there, and then we'll just spin it in the circle. You do have to apply a little bit of pressure, and that's why I do this part right now instead of after another layer of epoxy, because I do want a clean and easy clean line to go around here. And if you have too much epoxy on there, this part will not be fun. So we're going to go through, and it will kind of cut that and separate it off. For this design, I might actually have to raise this blade up a little. I usually have it that low, but seeing how this is going, may have to go up just a little. Let me see. Need some more of this to come off. Actually, that will be enough. I just need some of these bigger chunks to come up off the bottom, because that's what's not giving me that really even cut down there. So scrape away some of that epoxy with my hand before I chop it off. There we go. I would rather use a cup edging tool than tape my tumblers, because I'm so bad at remembering to come back and remove the tape. I have 4 boys, and we have baseball every single day. And by the time they get home from school and we eat dinner and we go to baseball, I get back and my cups are set, and it's just tough. It's tough to go back and remove that tape. I have had luck a few times with using my heat gun and running the heat gun around the tumbler first and then pulling my tape. It kind of loosened it a bit, but it's one of those things you got to be careful with, because if that epoxy is really set, then you risk kind of messing up your whole design. There we go. All right, so just spin it around a few times, and then you should be able to just pop this off. Came off pretty clean, just making sure that there aren't any extra pieces. Let me get my acetone and my baby wipes. I have my dry baby wipes that I put in the dryer. I did not realize that they sold baby wipes or dry wipes. If I would have known that, I would have been using those, but I didn't know. And I have a ton of baby wipes from when my boys were little, so I have that. And they are so good at helping getting off any spray paint. You'll have to go around in any epoxy that's on there, just kind of pop that off. Take this off too. We don't need these. I'll show you really quick what I do for this. I'm not going to show you the UV resin part because I'd have to go set it outside, and I want to kind of keep going with this. So what I do is I take the bottom, I clean it off. I have a 1-inch sticker. I get my stickers from Stickermule. You just upload your design and they will do it all for you. They'll print it. Whoop. Get that right in the middle, and I don't press it down yet. I use my heat gun and I kind of soften up this sticker. That way I can press it down into place and get it to stay put. And from here, you can do kind of whatever epoxy you want. You can do a regular epoxy and just let it sit on a level surface. Just drop it, you drop it in the middle and spread it out so that it kind of comes a little over this little ring, this rim right here. You can do it with regular epoxy, fast setting. I do UV, and that's the last step that I do. So we're not gonna worry about that right now. We'll do that later. But look how clean that bottom came out. Like really, really good, right? So we're gonna let that spin. The top has to be trimmed out and stuff first, but I don't wanna do that yet. What I do for that is I use my, you know, a little rotary, what is it called? Like the little Dremel, there we go. I use a Dremel for that, and I don't wanna pull that up since it's on there pretty good. I use a Dremel for the top part. After all the epoxy and everything's set, I take it and I go around the top, and it gives me a nice clean rim. So I don't wanna cut any of that now. The way that it's laying down, it's really good, and I want to make sure that it stays like that for this next coat of epoxy that we'll do in a minute. What we'll do now is we're going to put some dirt on it. For this dirt, I like using, oh, we had a good angle. For this dirt, I like using the Rust Patina paints, the effect paste. I use red rust and brown rust. Make sure that's all right. Yep, red rust and brown rust. And what we're doing is we're just dirtying it up. So all of the baseball fields that I've been to, besides turf now, when they do have dirt, it's like this red paste looking. So I like going on with the red first, and I do black, this brown to give it like just a little more depth. And what I'll start out with doing, because I don't want the whole thing to be completely dirty, but I do want to cover up where we can see the tumbler through this. So we'll get this on here, and we're going to go through and really focus on the parts where we can see through, and we're just going to go up and down. We don't want it on an angle. We just want to go up and down with it. Just make it dirty all the way through. Definitely no exact way that I'm putting this on here besides looking at the spots that are kind of separated right here where you can see that little gap and filling that in. Just enough to play off to the point, the fact of the part that it didn't quite sit. You know, it had a little gap between it. Uh-oh, did I just unscrew that? Kind of. There's a sticky sheet that I really wanted to use on this from Mr. Nola's Glitter, but I don't have it. And I'm kind of hoping I can get this done in time to use this weekend. So besides what I'm going to do with the with kind of the spray paint, you can just go to Mr. Nola's website. It's mrnolaglitter.com. They have Bleach spot sticky sheets, and it looks like kind of like that, you know, a bleach spot like white. And then I'm going to put a mom bun decal on top. I'm going to do a mom of ballers. I have 4 boys, right? So I'm fairly tough with my boys. So kind of those sweet sayings I don't really jump all over. They're cute, but they're just not me. I kind of like mama ballers more than like baseball mama or any of those. So I'm going to cut that out of vinyl and put that over, you know, my bleach spot. And I'm thinking it's going to look really, really cool. So I have this brown that I'm going on with now, and I'm just adding it to spots that have the red just to give it a little more depth and dirt looking. I like using the red, like I said, more because it has more of that baseball feel to it. Mix some of these in. It really looks so cool when you like kind of combine those colors together. Get another baby wipe just to get this off my fingers. Mix some red into that. And then I'll just double check some areas. That needs brown. This, there's a few bumps in here that I can feel that I know it's going to need a bit of epoxy, but shouldn't at all take away from this mess. I'm excited. I like the way this looks. Okay. We're gonna let this spin for a little bit. It doesn't even have to spin. You can let it just sit there and dry if you have to do a different, if you need to turn it for something else. We're gonna let this dry for a minute, and then we'll come on. This textured paste that we're using, it has like it has grit in it, so it kind of has like a sandy feeling to some parts. When some of those pieces clump up, you do have big kind of clumps on the cup that the epoxy will cover it, but you'll feel those bumps through the epoxy. So what I do after it dries, because I don't want to really smear this all over the place, is I'll take my hand and I'll run it through, and I'm not pressing hard at all. I'm just kind of dusting away some of those, like some of these chunks that fall off. That way I don't have like these big clumps everywhere. There's one right here. That way I don't have these big clumps that I'm trying to fight with when it's time to do the epoxy. So let this dry and we'll come back to it in a minute. I have my epoxy mixed up. I'm using speed dry epoxy, so we're going to make this part quick. I'm going to go around the tumbler and just cut off any pieces that are really big. And this is what I was talking about with knocking off some of those big chunks. There's a few spots where it does give a lot of texture. If you want to leave that and you don't mind a thick tumbler with epoxy, then just leave that and put on extra coats. But I kind of like keeping them down when I can. So I'm going to go through, and I'm not pressing hard because I do like the texture that paste gives. It looks really, really cool. I'm just chopping off, cutting off some of these really big pieces I didn't want to lay flat. I'm going to leave some of them because, like I said, it looks really, really cool the way it just holds down in there. But if you can tell, if it's really, really stiff, you can tell it won't lay down. All right, we have that. I'm going to get my glove and get ready for this epoxy. Like I said, this is mixed. It's been sitting here just for a few minutes. The bubbles, well, my torch is dying. I'm going to pop some of those bubbles that came to the top, and I'm going to put this on. This stuff sets up so nice. The bubbles work themselves out. I hardly ever need my torch. I find myself doing it out of habit and just to be safe. Just to be a little safe, but it sets up so nice. It works best in thin layers, but if you like doing kind of thicker layers, then you can definitely put that on there and save yourself a little time. And money. I've saved a lot of money by switching to this epoxy. I use so much less. I found a piece of glitter. That has to get out. I find that I use a lot less epoxy with this because you do get really nice layers out of it. I'm going to make sure that everything around the top is laid down. That it's in between all of those cracks. And the same for the bottom. Make sure I get a really good coat in there. This is a point where you want to kind of start bringing it down towards the end of that tumbler. We're going to go around with our cup edging tool after this sets and trim off that and clean it again. It'll be easier right now to just keep that epoxy going down around the rim though. This epoxy will set up fairly quick. You can do another coat. Depending on, I'm gonna say depending on your climate and everything, usually about 2, sometimes 3 hours later, I can sand it, but I'm gonna let this really set up nice. Get this broken torch again. Scoot that piece of glitter out. There we go. And just go through and make sure your bubbles are out of there. And it looks so cool already. I'm excited. Nola's glitter also has, for the messy bun, they have baseball and softball. Little messy buns. They have army ones too, and a ton. Man, I could probably keep going. I can't think of them all, so I won't, but they have a ton of them. Will this lay down? Probably won't lay down for a minute, so I'll just sand that big piece off. All these little pieces that are sticking up, we're gonna sand it in a little bit. We're not even gonna sand it next. We're gonna go on with, depending on how this coat takes, if it gets in all these crevices, we're gonna go in with our spray paint and do just a big splotch in the middle. Like I said, I don't have the bleach spots that I really wanted to use, and I'm hoping to get this done, so we'll go without them on this. But definitely head over to the website and grab that, because it would be, I mean, just make it all so easy. These bracelets you got to get on your own, guys. There's no template for that yet. You'll have to find these. All right, we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, guys, I'm doing this part in my garage because it's messy and I don't like doing this in my room. So there's a few spots that where it's a little rough. It's a little more rough than I would like to put spray paint on right now. Whenever I do this blotch of spray paint in the middle, I want to make sure that that it's not going to be stuck in any grooves. So I'm going to go ahead and sand some of these big pieces down. If you can see that, it's super, super pokey. We're going to go ahead and sand some of that down. I'm going to show you how to clean off this top rim real quick. And then I do have to go back with my cup edging tool and get the bottom of this part cleaned up again. I probably could have, well, I know, not probably. I should have just wiped this all down and cleaned it when I set that layer of epoxy, but I don't know, I wasn't thinking. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to do this top. I have this little rotary Dremel thing, and we're going to go ahead and get this around the top and get rid of this extra. I didn't do any talking during that part, so you didn't miss anything. I just kind of had my rotary tool. You saw how I kind of like eased it back and forth to help straighten out this edge and get that trimmed off. There's a few spots where you are actually touching, you know, the like the armbands right along this edge inside there. Don't worry about that. That seal is not messed up. What we'll do is we'll sand it down a little with the 60 grit sanding sponge. And then when we do our next layers of epoxy, we're gonna make sure to bring it kind of over this edge, and that's gonna help reestablish the seal on the top and bottom. So now I'm gonna take my 60 grit sanding sponge, and I am just knocking off some of these big pieces here. This part doesn't have to be anything special or perfect. We're just making sure this is flat, so that way this next layer of epoxy will go on a bit more smooth. And then when we go to do the layer after that is when we can really get in here and knock down any of these pieces that are really up. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna go against what I just said and try something real quick. So I have my sanders that I use whenever some spots like this get really pokey, or just to prep my tumblers. I get my sander and I use this on here. And I'll mute this part so you don't have to hear all this noise, but I'm gonna go at it and see how much these can knock down some of these big bumps that I know are gonna give me problems later. right, that actually worked out really good. It took away, like it ripped off some of the parts that were really poking out, but it didn't damage the design at all. And it's a dirty baseball look, so if it would have been played off, but it didn't. You'll see some spots right here, like this white, that's epoxy debris that's inside of like the little hole bubble that popped. We will get a little X-Acto knife or a weeding pen and kind of just stick it in and swish it around for a minute and pull that powder up. And then you will not even be able to tell. Okay, so that's all the sanding we're gonna do. Don't worry about any streaks that are in this epoxy right now. The next layer of epoxy is going to cover up all of these scratches. There's not that many. You can see a few like little spots from that sander where it kind of left a little mark, but that's all gonna be covered up inside that epoxy. So we're not even worried about that right now. We're gonna wash this off and then go trim off the bottom one more time. Probably a bad angle for this right now, but we're just getting this done. I'm gonna go around a few times. Trim off that edge. It's been sitting for a few days, so it's a little tougher. If you do this right away, you won't have this much problem. It'll just cut right through, but this epoxy kind of had a minute to set for a few days, so it's on there pretty good. I always feel like I'm losing a finger when I'm doing this part. I'll get that back there for that. This design would be super, super cute. I don't know how they do it for girls. I'm assuming they give out wristbands for like volleyball and dancing to get in those places. I have no idea, but definitely possible to do this for a girl's design. What I would do is I would use a glitter that has like a chunky, not like fully chunky, but you know, a good mix to it. Egret from Mr. Nola's glitter would be perfect. I'd probably use that because it has like little bits of it that would get into those spaces that we tried to fill in with the dirt. It would get in there and cover up some of those gaps without it, you know, looking too funky, and those bigger pieces will just kind of catch on top. So I would probably do that. I'd throw some tack in there and then go on with Egret and really glitter it up and kind of play it off and give it like a really pretty thing. I'll have to try to do one of those. I don't have any girls, and all of my bracelets say like baseball or U-Trip, OTC, you know, 2D, all of those different places. So it may look a little funny unless I get some plain ones. I'll try to stack up some plain ones and do a girl's one. And if I don't, someone please do that and tag me in it. I would love to see how it would look like with glitter. I mean, I guess I could do it and have it like be a softball look to it, but I don't know, I kind of like the dirt too. I wonder if I could do glitter and dirt. All right, so we're gonna take a minute and clean up the inside and the bottom of the cup. This is just so that I don't have to fight with it later. Every once in a while, I'll put a layer of epoxy on, thinking it wouldn't have to be my last layer, and it will come out so perfect. I'm like, oh man, I didn't even clean up the rim, like there's paint, or it will drop towards the inside, and then I would have to trim around the outside and just compromise that layer. So I'm going to take the time right now before we do decals, in between these sanding steps, and get this cleaned up. That way, when I do put a layer on that happens to be flawless, it can be my last layer and I'm not kind of stuck having to go clean this up and then do another one. I'm really, really careful with the edges of my cup and making sure that everything's sealed nicely. All right, we're just cleaning this up, and then I'll find that spot right here. If you can see it, I'll get some rubbing alcohol because that will be best to pull that up. I don't want to use acetone for that part, only because I don't know if it would take the color away from these bracelets. I wouldn't want to chance it. I drop a little alcohol in there and then just pick out the dust that's in that little hole. You can do this with any design. It doesn't have to be just this one. If you have any bubbles that pop and you get, you know, a little bit of epoxy dust in there when you're sanding it, grab some alcohol, drop a little alcohol in it, then just pop that, pop the debris out of there. Make sure I don't have any other ones. Putting that alcohol on there before you pick it out will kind of show you where those white spots are, because it shines everything up, and then you'll have kind of white spots noticeable that you can get to. So we'll make sure this is out. And if you don't have an X-Acto knife, let me grab my weeding pen real quick. If you don't have an X-Acto knife and you just have a weeding pen or even just a needle laying around, where's one of those that I can show you? Right here? No, those don't have anything in it. So where's that other hole I had? Like, what you'll do is just take your little needle and then just go in a circle and it will pop it all out. Doesn't quite matter. Is that one? No. Doesn't quite matter the size, but there's a few right here that you can see. Well, that I can see. I don't know if you can see that. But I'm gonna stick my needle in and just wiggle it in a circle, and that will loosen it up. There you go. And now you can't even see, it's not that white spot anymore because it's dug out and the alcohol kind of calmed the rest of it down. All right, so we're gonna put another coat on. I would love to power wash this right now in the middle and get the effect that I want to put my my mom bun on top. I'm doing mom of both on this one, but I can't right now because if I go to clean up the spray paint, it will get stuck in the sand marks from the sandpaper. So we need to do a layer of epoxy before you put spray paint on this. We're gonna get this next layer of epoxy on here, guys. This is Speed Dry Epoxy. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. You mix it by volume, not by weight. So measure it out into a few cups, make sure it's even, and then, you know, like the amount that you poured is even. Mix that real good. I usually mix it in 1 cup, then pour it into another cup and mix that one real good, and that's about all it takes. So I am going through and I'm going to get this on here. This doesn't have to be a super quick coat, but this is where we're going to start establishing that seal from where we trimmed off the top and the bottom of the epoxy. So I have this poured in, I'm smoothing it out, and then this is where I'm just going to start kind of laying it over the edge. It's easy enough to clean up the inside of the tumbler after this. You can just get a magic eraser or some dry baby wipes with acetone, and it cleans up so easily. And then the same thing on the bottom. We're going to bring it to the bottom, turn it around over that edge. This stuff, this epoxy, the bubbles pop so easily on it, and more than half the time, whenever I'm working it through, is when you can see the bubbles just working their way out of it. Oh, my thing is so broken. Is where you start working, you work through it, the bubbles start, you know, it off gases and the bubbles pop on its own. I'm using my torch just to make sure around the edge that is, if you thin it out just a little, either with a torch or a heat gun, it'll do really good to thin and get inside some of those little crevices around the top and bottom. So I have my torch, and it's just enough to make sure that it, you know, thins out just a little to move into all those little cracks. Run it across just in case there's bubbles. I don't see anything. Do this just in case. There's really no point in this. All right, let me get some alcohol. And what I'm doing now is I'm just cleaning off the bottom of the tumbler. I have a little alcohol on this baby wipe, and I'm just running this along here, along the bottom of the tumbler, just to clean up the epoxy that across that edge onto the bottom. I don't do the bottom of my tumblers, so this line that goes around, that's the end of it. Once I get my epoxy and I clean it up off the bottom, it has a smooth transition from the bottom of the tumbler, from the epoxy to the bottom of the tumbler. So it isn't a rough edge, and I don't have to worry about kind of that epoxy being compromised if someone was to drop it. So we're gonna let this go for a little bit, and then we'll take it outside and get the spray paint and the power wash, that little effects for some, maybe even not power wash. I'm gonna have to see how this goes. Definitely spray paint, white spray paint, to put behind the little mom bun decal. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna spray paint where we're gonna put our mom bun. And I think that's gonna go about right here. The pink and the purple are pretty close together, and I like to have more of the blue and green. So I'm gonna cover up some of that pink and purple. I'm just gonna put, my goal is to put a splotch right here in the middle, and then have the paint kind of like splatter looking towards the outside. So I have a few white spray paints that are almost empty, and that should be enough, especially when you get towards the end of that spray paint, it kind of sputters out, and that's what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna go heavier in the middle, and then I want it to kind of spit some spray paint out. Ooh, let me see if this old one is better at this. So I'm going to barely, I'm kind of just pressing it. Hopefully I can show that right. I'm like barely pressing it down, and it's dripping. See how it's dripping? Like I'm barely pressing it down, but just keep doing that. And it'll spit it out in little dots. Sorry, I know my angle is really bad for this, but I need to have this, you know, kind of down so that it will catch. Another good way, if you don't have a spray paint, doing this will ruin your spray paint bottles. So don't ever do this when your spray paint's full. I only use this like when I get to the bottom of it, I use it for this. What I'll do if either I can't spray paint or I don't have a spray paint that I can use, I can just you can just take white paint, regular white paint, and put on like a paintbrush or even your finger and just flick it at the cup. And I just do this until I get the look that I'm going for. I'm going to let this sit and dry all the way, and then I'm going to take alcohol, not acetone. I'm going to take rubbing alcohol and go through and clean up in between those splatters. That way it cleans up right there, but we still have those really neat blotchy spots right there in the middle. I might make this a little bigger. I'm going to try to extend this just a little and see. I don't quite know how much I'm going to want to wipe off yet. That should be good. Let me splatter this outside real quick. All right, and let this dry all the way before we try to wipe away any paint. We're gonna go ahead and get our Mom of Ballers decal on here. This paint has been drying for a bit, so we're good to go now. I went ahead and weeded it and built it on the piece of, you know, off the cup, on the piece of contact paper. I can't think right now. So we're gonna put this on. Usually I like to build it on the cup, but this one does take a little bit, and I wanna make sure I don't burn a ton of time. So we're gonna go ahead and get this on here. I got the image, the mom bun and the wording off Etsy, but I had to build the sunglasses and everything else kind of on its own. And my husband made me a little holder thing, except that I'm not too used to using it. So please don't kill me. I'm gonna scoot that away while I line it up real quick, and then I'll flatten it onto the cup a little more back in frame. Sorry guys. There we go. Then we'll put this on here. Oh no. Okay, well, good thing I'm taking that off, right? Let me make sure it's on a little more in some of these spots. We're gonna go through with our alcohol and acetone and take some of this paint away. We've been having these stretch of rainy days, so the humidity and paint drying has not been fun lately. It's just been taking forever. All right, I have my dry baby wipes and some acetone. I'm gonna start off with that rubbing alcohol, and I'm gonna go through and just take that away. I don't know if I can work on this thing, guys. It's a little too high. I can't see my cup, sorry. All right, so we're just gonna go circular, kind of circular movements, and we're not digging this down in here hard at all. We're just lightly brushing away the outside paint because we do want these spots, these little splotches everywhere to stay. And I'm gonna go around and kind of make it a little tighter for where that decal is. If you're not too comfortable with doing this part right now, once your decal is already on there, then you definitely could have wiped the paint around before we put the decal on. I just like knowing how big I would need that paint to be wiped away. So I just do this way, and I'm pretty careful when I get close to the decal. There we go. That part wiped to get away, you can't even tell. So keep wiping this around. Just realizing again that I don't have my cup on a turner arm, and that's why I'm struggling. All right, and then we're just going to keep pulling this paint up a little to get where we want it to. I'm really gonna have to do one of these with in a girl design because I'm really excited to see how it would look if it had glitter inside of here. Mr. Nola's Glitter has a lot of these messy bun files that they're loading in sticky sheets, and they also have a paint splatter, you know, like the bleach spots. They have a few of those, and we tested it out, and it looks like they do fit inside of each other. There's a few different designs that I think they need to they're working on adjusting some of the sides of the bleach to have it work, but it fits in there and it's so cute. So it'd be easy enough to just to get, instead of doing all this, you can just jump on there, get the bleach spot and the mom bun decal, and then it would save you all the spray paint. Just put the bleach spot down, put the sticky sheet over it, you know, like the bleach spot sticky sheet and the bleach spot mom bun, which kind of wish I would have waited, but I don't have a ton of patience sometimes. All right, I don't want the spray paint to go to the back of the cup. I want that to stay clean. So I'm gonna wipe away the spots that are really, really off in the middle of nowhere. You can use acetone or alcohol to get that off. This baby wipe still has a good bit of alcohol on it. It holds on to alcohol and acetone for a real long time. So I'm able to just keep using that. Some of these away. And then I think, I don't want that to poke up right there. Clean up this side. And this is gonna be pretty much it for the design, like not much to this one at all. We'll go through with our final coats of epoxy, and depending on how it feels around the edges is when we'll know when to stop. There's a few spots where you can feel it coming up right there, and I don't want to sand it right now, so most likely I'll end up doing a coat of epoxy, taking it outside, sanding off around the edges, making sure all of this has a really good seal around it, and then one more coat, and that would be it. I have a few pieces in here. that piece of glitter to come out. There we go. All right, I'll play that off by going in a little closer with it. It worked out pretty good because when I was spraying, some of those big splatters fell under the spray paint. So when I'm wiping it off, I'm able to get some of that off of there, and it still shows that design. It still shows the splatter, even though I'm taking off some of the top layer of spray paint. It looks really cool. Any place where it shouldn't be. Just clean it up with rubbing alcohol. Okay, and that's it for this step. We'll get it over to our turner and go on with that layer of epoxy. We're coming in with speed dry now, and this stuff will set up within 2 to 3 hours, and then that will be it. Just for a few pictures, and then I can take this wherever I want. I'm so excited. I think this is like the first time I've, well, no, the second time that I like had an idea for a cup for myself and I made it. So hopefully no one feels like they have to have this because I want it. But that's it. And like I said, it would be super, super easy to turn this into a girl design, whether it's volleyball, dancing. I don't know how it goes with getting wristbands and dancing and cheerleading competitions. I don't know. But I know for softball, and I'm sure they would have to do volleyball. They have to keep track somehow, right? But it would be easy enough to just do a glitter inside there. And like I said, I would use a mixed glitter with that. Instead of the dirt, do a mixed glitter. Something like Egret from Mr. Nola's glitter would be great because the smaller pieces will get in there, but it'll also have a really good bit of shine to it. That would really be fun. And then you could just put, I don't know, a mom saying instead of Mom of Ballers, you know, Dance Mom or something. So that's it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you found this helpful. Please subscribe, like. Let me know if there's anything else you want to see, or if you have any ideas I could also go along with these, because this was really fun. I don't know. I like it. All right, that's it.